Hi, I'm Ritika, and today we're going to be talking about gender, the gendered body, and implications that gender brings to individuals in society. So first let's start off with what is a gendered body. And a gendered body is one that is forced to or judged by a certain set of rules that society puts upon the body about traditional roles of masculinity and femininity. So girls who wear dresses are gendered, but girls who wear flannels and boots like Doc Martens are also gendered. Whereas men who cook and clean versus men who do traditionally masculine things such as lift weights and build things they're all gendered, but they are perceived in different ways with different positive and negative connotations, depending how well the body fits into these stereotypes and these gender norms that are given by society. So let's talk about the gender spectrum and what it means. Typically and traditionally there is a gender binary. There is boy and there is girl. There are people who don't fall under this binary, for example, whose genitalia don't match how they manifest themselves, how they identify, and these people are not in the binary. The most common example of this nowadays is someone who is transgender, where their genitalia is the opposite of how they present themselves and how they identify, such as a woman with male genitalia who identifies as a woman and does typically feminine things but still has this male genitalia. And those kinds of bodies are gendered in a particular way, and bodies who are traditional cis bodies where the gender identity and the sex organs match are gendered in another way, which is sometimes and typically less dangerous, typically less harmful, but they are all very important to consider. First and foremost, let's talk about these cis bodies who are gendered and what happens when they don't follow these stereotypes and these traditional expectations of masculinity and femininity. For example, I am a woman who identifies as such. I have female genitalia, and sometimes I like to wear flannels and beanies and build things and go to the gym and lift weights. But these aren't typically feminine things. So if someone looks at me in a flannel and my Doc Marten boots and my beanie, they might look and judge me incorrectly as being a butch lesbian woman, and that's not right at all, because A, I'm not, B, who are they to tell me how I identify and who I like in those kinds of ways? And so gender and these norms that society puts on these bodies, there are so many expectations that are so hard to match properly, because there are double standards even if a girl is doing traditionally feminine things. So an example of this is the double standard that exists in both masculinity and femininity, where if a girl she wears too many dresses and too much makeup and all of these things that are typically feminine, but she does them in excess, then she's thought of negatively. But if she doesn't do them in excess and she does traditionally masculine things, then she's also thought of negatively. And there's really no winning with these cis bodies who don't dress the part, if you will. But then if your body doesn't, let's say you have a transgender person and they don't, so because they're transgender, their genitalia won't match how they identify, how they dress, things like that. And that can be really dangerous to them in the world, because there are so many people out there who don't accept it and think it's a phase or a fad or a rebellion, and so they will bully, they will judge, and they will be unnecessarily nosy and mean. There are so many societal, political implications and judgments that are made on transgender bodies and bodies who don't do gender properly, if you will. So, for example, there's this article, My Life Without Gender, Strangers Are Desperate to Know What Genitalia I Have, by Tyler Ford. And this person was born as a girl with female genitalia, but had a lot of internal struggle because they didn't identify as such. And as they grew up, they realized that neither female pronouns such as she or her fit, but also male pronouns such as him or he, those didn't fit either, and so they are a genderless person. Another really prominent person in media today who doesn't fit traditional gender roles is E.J. Johnson, son of Magic Johnson, the basketball player, who is extremely into fashion, and if you just Google him, you'll understand exactly what I mean. But back to the Tyler Ford article, these complete strangers will go up to Tyler and ask, "What's in your pants? I have to know because it doesn't make sense." Because what they perceive as traditionally masculine or feminine doesn't fit with what Tyler puts forward. And this can be really problematic because there are people out there, the ones that don't accept what's happening, and are very, very stuck in their black and white spectrum of what gender is, this gender binary, and they bully, they harass, they're incredibly dangerous almost, because they can cause real physical harm as well as emotional trauma. There is an article in the New York Times actually about a 16-year-old transgender boy who wants to use the boys' restroom because that's how they identify and that's who they are, but there are parents of the students who go to school with him who are all up in arms calling him a freak and all of these very, very negative words, who believe that he's a menace to society and a danger simply because he wants to use the boys' bathroom instead of the girls', because technically the girls' bathroom is where his genitalia belongs. And these kinds of issues are still very, very prevalent today, and they're only coming to light as the LGBTQIA plus sectors of society are gaining a bigger presence as they grow and gain supporters and support through the media as well. But we've still got quite a long way to go as to what it means to be a gendered body and kind of gaining this equal footing for bodies who exhibit all types of gender or no type of gender even, and bodies who don't follow traditional gender roles or traditional masculine and feminine traits. So we have a long way to go, but with the growing media presence of people like E.J. Johnson and Tyler Ford, who are writing and making it known that it's okay to be different, it's okay to not follow gender roles and follow these rules and structures that society has put on them, then we can move forward and work towards a more equal, less stereotyped, less judgmental society. As we grow, we need to realize that there are people who don't identify with the genitalia that they were given, or who don't identify with the traditional roles that their gender has been given in society. And we need to, with the growth of more feminist movements and more queer movements. We're working towards that, but we've still got a long way to go. But I believe that there is a day coming where everyone will be equal and nobody will get judged. The question is, when will it happen? By no means am I suggesting that every single trans person out there wants to match their genitalia to their gender identity by any means. There are people on both sides that do want to and people that don't. Like, gender reassignment surgery is not kind of an end goal for everyone. I do want to make that clear. And also, we need to remember that sex is kind of a social construct as well, because there isn't just male genitalia and female genitalia. There are various kinds of genitalia and hormone genitalia combinations that we can't put even sex on a binary. So sex isn't a binary, gender is not a binary, and neither is sexuality.